In this video, we'll create a Word document using the Mac, taking you step by step through the essential skills that you need to use Word. To achieve this, we'll cover 5 key areas. 1. How to input and edit text. 2. How to create a table of contents. 3. How to apply headers and footers to your document. 4. How to place a table in your document. And 5. How to insert images into your Word document. This is an example of how the document will look and what you can do by the end of this video. As you can see, we have a header, a table of contents, and some edited text. And if I click on one of the headings of the table of contents, it takes me to another page and we can see some bullet points, a table, some images that have been added into the document, and at the bottom of every page, we can see a page number. So let's get started. When you open up Microsoft Word, you'll see a blank document alongside a range of templates for you to use and edit. We will start with a blank document. To do this, I will click on the blank document and you will see the images highlighted with a blue outline. If I clicked on one of the other templates, you'll see that that template is now highlighted. Going back to our blank image, once I click and you see it highlighted, I can now go to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and press Create to start my blank document. Before we can start the first section of editing text, we first need to get text into our document. Before we do this, I want to bring your attention to this flashing line on the screen, which is called the cursor. Everywhere you see the cursor, that's where your text will be typed. For example, if I type the word the, T-H-E, you can now see the cursors at the end of the word the. If I press the Enter key, you can see the cursor is moving downward on the page. Everywhere I place the cursor key, that's where my text will start typing. Even if you've copied something and you've pasted it, it will only paste it where your cursor is. So firstly, you need to always remember where your cursor is, that's where the text will type. So you don't have to sit there and watch me type because I type very slow. I'm going to type in these words, equals, rand, open brackets, and 90, which means it's going to put around 90 paragraphs into my document. Now that we have some text in the page, we just want to modify our text so we can get it looking like a readable paragraph. At the moment, we have paragraphs that are in here, but they're all kind of bunched together. So what I'm going to do is go at the end of every sentence, click on the text and press Enter. And I'll do that a few times until I've corrected the whole document. I'm also going to add some headings to this document. So I'm going to click at the beginning of video. As you can see, and as we mentioned earlier, wherever your cursor is, that's where the text will start editing. Now, if I press the Enter key twice, you can see that the text has moved down and I've got 2 extra spaces above. I can click on the extra space and it now gives me the space to add something like a title or some additional text. So I'm going to type in why use video. I've just gone ahead and cleaned up this document by going in and separating all of the paragraphs and adding some headings. So you've seen why use video. I've added a few more, the importance of video and how to use video. So I've kind of added these along the way just to save time. And I'm also going to increase the size of the screen just so we can see things a bit more clearly. So now that we've got our text inside the document, by using a combination of typing text and pressing the Enter key, we've now got headings and paragraphs. The majority of our editing is going to be done inside the Home tab. Under each tab or under each menu, Microsoft calls this a ribbon. So under the Home, it's basically called the Home ribbon. And under the Insert menu, you've got the Insert ribbon, and so on. On the Home ribbon, there's a tool called the Show and Hide button. The Show and Hide button reveals to you how many spaces and enter points you've put on your document. Every time I press the Enter key, you can see the Show and Hide button appears on my page. Every time I press space, using the space bar, you'll also see a dot appear, showing me how many spaces I have. These are some things that might be difficult to pick up with your natural eye. For example, if I turn off Show and Hide, other than it being underlined, you can't easily see that there's an extra space in there. Once you've got the Show and Hide tool on, it's quite evident that there's 2 dots instead of 1. So we're going to leave this on for a while. I'm going to delete one of the spaces in between the sentences, and now you can see there's 1 space between each sentence. The first thing we will use to modify our text is from the Style Gallery. The Style Gallery changes your text based on predefined styles. So you can see it has normal, some with no spacing, heading 1, 2, title, and so on. If I highlight the heading, I'm now going to click on heading 1. The heading now adopts the color and font style from the gallery. I'm going to go through the document and I'm going to apply that same heading to every single header in this document. If I wanted to change anything else, for example, change my heading back from heading 1 to normal text, I can just highlight my text and go over to normal. Then it changes it back to normal text. But I'm going to put this back in heading style. This style gallery has been set up by Microsoft Word and has defined what normal, no spacing, heading, and all the rest of them mean. But you can redefine these headings and change it to whatever you want. If I right click on heading 1, for example, I have the option to modify. Once inside the modification, I can not only change the name of the heading, I can change the font type, the size, bold, italic, underlined. I can also change the color and its indentation. So I'm going to change the color from black to a dark gray and then press the OK button. And now you can see on my document, the headings have been changed from black to gray. It's done this for all the headings inside the document. I can now go back into heading 1, click on modify, and I'm going to change it back to black, but this time I'm going to add a bold effect to it so you can see the difference. Once I press OK, this will be applied to all the headings in my document. This will save you time having to set the headings manually. You can now set up and use your own custom styles going forward. To select text in the document, you can double click on a word and it will select the whole word. If you wanted to select a whole paragraph, you can triple click and your text will be highlighted. So you have to practice between the double click and the triple click, and it all depends on the speed. For example, if I clicked at this speed, click, 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 nothing will happen. But I have to do it a little bit faster, click, 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 and then Word recognizes that I've triple clicked and highlight the whole paragraph. And the same with selecting a word, double click, click, click. It then recognizes that as 2 clicks and will then highlight the word. If I do it too slow, click, click, it recognizes it as a single click done twice. So using this new method, I'm going to select the whole paragraph. So click, click, click. Now the text is selected, I'm going to start to add some modifications. To do this, I'm going to select the drop-down menu beside the font section on the home ribbon. You can see a range of different fonts that are available. I'm going to click on Bradley Hand, and you can see it's changed it to handwriting. The size of the text can also be changed by clicking on the drop-down besides font size. It has a range of numbers from 5 all the way up to 72, and you can manually put in larger numbers. You also have the A for increase and the A for decrease to modify how big or how small the text will look on your page. You can also use other formatting functions like bold, italic, and underlined. And this is done by selecting the text and then clicking on B or I or U. And we'll add a few to the document so you can see how the different functions look on the page. As a quick recap, when we added the headings to our document, we highlighted the text, then selected a heading style from the style formats. This is important as only headings and titles from here are recognized by the table of contents. The first step in creating a table of content is to click on the References ribbon. We'll then see the first option is Table of Content. As I click on the drop-down arrow, you'll see the different options: Classic, Contemporary, Formal, or Modern. I'm going to choose the Classic style to see it applied to the document. Now that we have a table of content, we can click on any of the headings and it will jump to that section of the document. You can also modify the table of contents after it's been created. So if I change one of the titles from the challenges with video to the challenges with text, if I now go up to my table of content, you can see it still says the challenges with video. If I click on the table of content, you can see there's a drop-down arrow at the top. I can then click on Update Table, and it says select one of the following options: update page numbers only or update the entire table. So if I say update the entire table and press OK, it's now modified it, recognizing that one of the headings has changed from the challenges with video to the challenges with text. That will be the same as if you include additional headings. You will just click on the table of content, click on the drop down arrow and update the table. To create a header and footer in Word, first go to the Insert tab. You will then see the header and footer buttons. First select Header. You will then see the built-in header options. Feel free to explore and try the different options. In this instance, we'll choose blank. This will allow you to type the header of your choice. Here, I will write all about video. You now have the option of closing the header and footer, but we will first input the footer information. If you click on footer, you will see a range of predefined options for you to explore. The one that we're going to use today is the one entitled Banded, which shows the page number. You will see page number 1 appear on your screen. Now that we have both header and footer in place, we can click on Close Header and Footer to consolidate our changes. We can now scroll through our document so we can see how the header and footer has been applied to each page. Using tables in Word is a good way of presenting information. Before adding a table, you first need to choose where you want your table to be. I'm going to scroll down to the next page and place my table between these two paragraphs, so I'll first need to place my cursor in the right position. To add a table, we click on the Insert tab and select Table. The squares represent rows and columns. I will select 3 columns and 2 rows, or a 3x2 table, then click to select. Your table can contain any information you want to add. In this example, we'll use the top rows for titles and we'll use the lower rows for some images. At the moment, our table is very plain. Word has many built-in table designs to choose from. The default is Table Grid, which it's now on. As I click through, you can see the design variations. Some are subtle and some are quite bold. Once the design has been chosen, I'll start to fill in some of the blanks. The size and width of the table can also be adjusted by clicking on the edges and then dragging in a particular direction. To quickly add an additional row, you can click in the last cell and then hit the Tab key on your keyboard. To delete or add a column or a row, place your cursor on the top of your table until it turns to a black downward arrow as displayed here, and then right-click using the mouse or use a 2-finger tap if you're using the trackpad on your Mac. You'll then see the following options. We can now go down to the Insert option and you'll see columns to the left or columns to the right. You can add rows above or add rows below. In this instance, I'm going to choose columns to the left so you can see how it appears on the page. Using the same method to select, I can select this column I just created and I can go down to the delete columns to remove it. I can then resize the table by dragging it from the edges. The moment your mouse hits one of the edges and it turns into the double arrow, you're free to drag it left or right. To add an image into your document, we first need to select where we want the image to be inserted. I'm going to add the image into our table, so I first need to ensure that my cursor is inside the cell that I want to place the image in. So I'm going to click it into this cell inside the table, and then I'm going to go into the Insert tab. Once on the Insert tab or ribbon, I'm going to go along to Pictures. There are a number of different options inside Pictures: Photo Browser, Picture from File, Stock Images, or Online Pictures. The first two rely on pictures that you already have in your machine. The second two are images that can be found online, providing you have access to the internet. I'm going to click on Stock Images, and on the right hand side, it's going to bring up all the stock images that are available on the internet. So the first option is Apple. So I'm going to type in the word Apple and then choose an apple from the list. So I'm going to click on Apple. You can see there's a tick there. I can click more than one, but I'm just going to do one at a time and then click Insert. Now, the first thing it's going to do is place the apple inside my cell, and it's going to place the apple at its original size. But don't worry, there's two ways to change this. One way is if you look at the top of your screen, we're now in what we call picture format, and you can see at the top here, it's got the height and the width of my image. It's also got a tick in the box, meaning if I change this size 15.93 to be smaller or larger, it will change everything in the right proportion because this tick is in place, the aspect ratio. So if I click on the downward arrow to make it smaller, you can see it keeps getting smaller, but it's not distorting the image, which is really good. So I can just keep my hand on it until I get it to the size that I want it to be. It's just disappeared off this page because it's small enough now. And then I'm going to keep making it smaller until I'm happy with the size of the image. Okay, that's roundabout. That's a good size for the image. I can now click away from it. There's also another way to do this, and it depends on which way you're more comfortable with. If you're more comfortable with the clicking like we just done, then use the first method. If not, you can also try this method. So if I click on the image, you will see that there are what we call resize handles, these squares that are surrounding the image. I can use these resize handles. So if I hover my mouse over the one on the corner, I can click and hold, and I can drag the arrow diagonally downward, and it will resize the image. You do need to be careful, because if you resized it by the side, it distorts the picture. So we have our first image in. Now I'm going to add a banana. So I'm going to click the X over here to remove the Apple search. And I'm now going to type banana. And I'm going to add in this banana over here. It's going to place the banana in at the size. And you can see it's downloaded from the internet, so it took some time. So I'm going to click on the banana. I'm going to make sure that it's got a tick on the aspect ratio. And then I'm going to click on the corner and just drag it down till I get the size. So we now have an apple and a banana, and the last one is a pear. So I'm going to click on the X over here in stock images. I'm going to type in pear, ensure that we have our cursor in the right place, and then select our image and press insert. Now it's going to place it in the right cell. So what I'm going to do is resize this again. So I'm going to keep my mouse on this downward arrow. Now I've got a little bit of space over here. So what I'm going to do is hover my mouse to the end of this table, so it turns into that double arrow. Click and hold, and then drag to remove the white space. And I'm happy with that. If you've reached this far in the video, firstly, thank you. And I want to give you 3 extra tips that might be helpful on your journey using Microsoft Word. I want to show you the undo button, how to share, and your editor. So the first thing to do is go to the top of your page, and you can see there's an edit button, and you've got the undo button here, or you can use Control Z. So if you've made any mistakes, click on this button and it will undo or reverse those changes. You also have the same option here with this arrow. And if you click on the drop down, it will have a list of all of the things that you've done, and you can click on one of those. But remember, if you click this far down, you're going to undo a lot of changes that you've done. Secondly, you've got the share button. If you're connected to the internet and you click on share, you can share this via email, or if you have access, you can save it to OneDrive. And lastly, there is the editor. So the editor is basically the spell check. It checks for spelling, grammar, and any writing issues that were in your document. That's it for this video. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.